Horror films aren't afraid to be redundant, especially when it came to the 60s and 70s when there was an inundation of nature gone wild films or films with the theme I'd like to call Don't Mess with Mother Nature. In these eco-horror films, usually some kind of pollution or intervention of man overturns the delicate apple cart of nature and nature bites back. A veritable zoo of animals had films dedicated to this phenomenon, but you're not likely to find one more outrageous than the 1972 film FROGS. After the success of Willard, Hollywood fell in love with nature gone wild eco-terror, and leading the charge was FROGS. In this film, nature is hoppin' mad as hell, and they aren't going to take it anymore. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Available for rent on Amazon Prime, on Blu-ray from Scream Factory, and I just saw it featured on Spangulia a couple weeks ago. FROGS was released in 1972. It was directed by George McCowan and written by Robert Hutchison and Robert Blees. It starred Ray Milland, Sam Elliott, Joan Van Ark, and Lynn Borden. Though this film has an abundance of croaking amphibians, FROGS would have been more appropriately retitled Reptiles, in that all forms of reptile and amphibian, and sometimes birds and insects, rise up and attack the island of a southern aristocrat and his family. I believe the main reason for using all forms of cold-blooded creatures is that frogs aren't really that menacing and don't really have a means to attack someone. It's hard to make your spine tingle when the defense of the creature featured is peeing in your hand if you pick them up. One could argue that they do stage an aggressive assault on a wheelchair-bound Ray Milland, known for Dial M for Murder and of course the Man with X-Ray Eyes, during the film's climax, but I attribute his passing to a heart attack rather than the Hopper's direct involvement. If only we had the macabre image of the giant frog with a human hand in its mouth from the poster in the actual movie, though there is an animated sequence of just that if you wait until the very end of the end credits. FROGS is an often redundant snoozer for most of the film because of its lack of ferocity of the title monsters. Scenes of frogs slowly descending upon the giant mansion follow more scenes of hopping frogs. Occasionally, snakes, lizards, and alligators are injected in to liven up the stew, but ultimately scenes of animals swimming through water or slithering through grass aren't really that scary, though a scary fact is that the production of frogs most likely skewed the natural order of things in Florida, as most of the frogs gathered from other parts of Florida and South America were just released into the wild when the filming was finished. Another scene was deemed actually too goofy for frogs, if you can believe that, where actress Hollis Irving is led into quicksand while chasing a giant butterfly, implying that it's not only the reptiles that are striking back against man. The scene was reshot having the actress die from a snake bite and then falling into the quicksand instead. The ending suggests that this is only the beginning as the animals begin to move from the mansion and out to take over the rest of humanity. FROGS, though, is still worth checking out because of the performances. FROGS is extremely well acted, and though they're dealing with a ridiculous menace, Ray Milland adds a lot of class to this film, and a young and beefcakey Sam Elliott serves as a better-than-typical macho leading man. The film plays on Elliott's hunkitude by requiring multiple de-shirtings. Joan Van Ark, in her first movie role, and Lynn Borden add some more acting weight here in key supporting roles. And Mae Mercer also offers up a solid role as Maybelle, who seems privy to nature's intentions to rise up and overtake those who have exploited the swamp. The aforementioned final sequence as the frogs break into the house Milland resides in is by far the highlight of the film, even though the bulk of this scene was shot with a body double because Milland was so uncomfortably hot during the filming that he left the production before the ending was shot. Fisheye lens and forced camera angles amp up the uneasiness as the frogs break through windows and climb all over Milland, who eventually tumbles out of his wheelchair, making it much easier for the frogs to kill him. This harrowing scene almost makes up for the tedious and laughable scenes prior of frogs hopping closer and closer and closer to the house. The atmosphere of the swamp permeates every scene in Frogs. The night sounds, crickets, and of course the frog croakings really do make you feel like you're in the sweltering, sticky heat that this movie is set in. I love Southern Gothic films such as this, suggesting long-buried horrors haunting just on the periphery of these decadent mansions. Director George McCowan, who went on to direct The Shape of Things to Come, seemed to have a lot of fun with the frog motif, tossing everything from frog paintings to frog statues all over the island and decorating the elaborate Southern Gothic home. In the end, I had a lot of fun rediscovering Frogs, though it takes patience to sit through some of those outrageous death scenes and an overly clunky message of animals rising up due to the pollution of the swamp. The climax of Frogs proved to be worth the wait. Have you seen Frogs? Let me know what you think of it down in the comments.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're